pro wrestling fans across the country and around the world. It's time once again for CNWA Pro Wrestling from the Second Row podcast. Join your host, T. James Logan, as he talks with the stars of CNWA Pro Wrestling. Let's join T. James right now with this week's special guests.
Hey fans, welcome to a special edition of From the Second Row. We've had the opportunity here to sit and talk with a wrestler you've hated, a wrestler you've begun to love, and a wrestler who's on his way out to bigger and better things. I'm sitting here with Tom Hann, who many of you know as T-Bone Jack Sloan. Tom, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Tommy?
Well, you've been out here in PWA way for a few years now.
I worked for PWA for, 3 years? I've been wrestling for 5. I think I worked for them for 3.
And what's the experience been like overall?
I believe I've learned more here in PWA than any promotion that I had. Not saying that any other promotion is bad. Just the opportunities have been laid before me on an independent scale to learn things. I've learned more here than anywhere.
Now, you've had some of what some people could say is a rare opportunity. Is not a lot of wrestlers actually come in and actually make it right up to the main events. You've gone through the whole cycle. You started off as the opening card, and now you've made it to basically on a lot of main events for the last little while.
Oh, that's it. You know, and I went through Storm Wrestling Academy in 2006, and he pretty much trained me to be a ring general right off the hop. I'm not saying that I was or I am now, but when it came to 2 rookies being in the ring, I can control it and have a good match and get a reaction to the crowd. So this is when promotions all across Canada, from Vancouver to Ontario, started putting me as opener, because the opening match always gets the crowd going. And that was a talent of mine. Was able to get the best out of whoever I was in the ring with, how or how good, or you know. So they put me in the opening match, or if they wanted to test out a new guy they've never seen before, they'd put me in there because they knew I would get the job done. So yeah, after you prove yourself like that, after a while, it just everything else comes along.
Now, you've had some great opportunities here in PWA. You've held the belt. You won. You've wrestled some great wrestlers.
Yep.
What was your best memory, do you think, here in PWA, just wrestling-wise, match-wise?
I can't say my best of anything. I mean, you know, the biggest name I wrestled was Booker T, obviously. We got to work together a couple times, and just a couple times I learned so much. But, I mean, stepping in the ring with guys like Johnny Devine and Apocalypse and Chris Steele, and these guys have been around for like a decade or more. And even though you haven't seen them on television on a continuous basis, they've got so much to offer and teach a young guy like myself. And if you actually open your ears and listen to what they have to say and do what you're told, then they kind of open up your eyes piece by piece, day by day. You know what I mean? It's not all going to come in one day, but working with guys like that it's you can't put a price tag on it.
Now, you went through a really interesting evolution that isn't. Yours was very natural, of the fact of going from a hated heel to when you left, even though you really hadn't changed a lot of your style or even mannerisms, you found the crowd behind you. What was that kind of like, to feel that for once, to go from that hated heel guy to all of a sudden the fans are crazy loving T-Bone Jack Sloan?
Well, you know, every movie needs a villain. And I could feel them for months before I even accepted it, that they wanted to embrace me or whatever. But I mean, this company needed the villain. Everybody needed the villain. There's no balance without it, and this is so natural to me. Even without saying a goddamn word, I'll look you in the eye, and you think I'm here to beat the out of you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I get it on a day-to-day basis, even in normal life, even at home. Even my girlfriend looks at me and says, like, "Why are you so mad?" I'm like, "I'm perfectly fine. I'm just watching TV. What the are you talking about?" It's just the look on my face. I can't help it. Even when I was a young child and I was getting confirmed in church, we were doing the walkthrough like you would at a wedding or whatever, you know what I mean? And my mother told me after, I didn't know, the minister grabbed her and kind of leaned over her shoulder and said, "Tom doesn't really like me, does he?" I said, No, don't take his facial expressions to offense. I mean, that's just the way he looks. He's fine. He's perfectly fine. So, it's just the way it is. And everywhere I go, people, promoters, audiences see that. And yeah.
And yet, that's not exactly you. You're not really that guy, are you?
Exactly. You know what I mean? I always get people coming up to me so nervous and so tedious and afraid to say whatever they got to say. But I mean, I'm from Newfoundland. I grew up in a small town, and everyone's very down to earth. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm not that mean. I mean, until you piss me off.
Well, one of the funniest stories, backstage stories that we've always had with the show and other people, is the fact that we didn't approach you for an interview for about a year after we had been doing shows.
Oh, really?
And for that reason was you were the most intimidating guy on the thing. And I was actually kind of afraid to just go ask you for
Really?
I really was.
Well, there you go. There's proof to my story. So.
And yet, in the end, you've always been probably one of the guys we've looked forward to talking to every single time, because the fact is you are one of the nicest guys that we've met here in PWA. But yeah, it took a year before I had the courage to come up and just say, hey, do you mind if we do a thing with you?
You've never told me that.
Yep, you were the last guy on the roster that we asked to do an interview for.
That's crazy.
So, do you plan to keep on wrestling now that you're on your way out? Fans who are hearing this now have got to realize that you're done up with PWA.
Yep.
And you're on your way back home to Newfoundland, I believe.
I'm not going exactly to Newfoundland.
Nope.
I'll be based out of Halifax.
Okay.
I will be working the Maritimes. My goal is to attack the northeast of the USA.
Yes.
When I get back.
A lot more opportunities there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. I've been here for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot. I've worked some of the best names in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I've held pretty much every belt in this company. Yeah, so when I get back there, I mean, I'm going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I've got some stuff I need to get looked at by some professionals. I probably should have got looked at years ago.
The story of many indie wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly. So to sit by the sidelines, and I'm just going to hit the gym and take care of my body for a couple months, and then soon enough, anyone that pays enough attention to the independents are going to hear my name more than enough once I hit the East Coast.
And what is your goal right now? Do you have any immediate goals that you're looking at, some of the promotions down there that you're thinking, like, I would really like to make an impact there, I'd like to go here? Is there any targets?
I'm never one to tell you exactly what I want to do, because anytime I ever say exactly what I want to do,
never happens.
It's usually something totally different comes of it, because this business is so crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many backstabbers, and there's so many freaks, and there's so many lies, and I love it. You know what I mean? Like, it's so messed up. It's perfect. So my goal is just to have a full, healthy career and entertain anyone that supports our business.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I know one thing is I'm still going to keep sending you emails asking you what the heck's going on when you're wrestling, because I know a lot of fans are going to want to know. I forgot, I was in such a hurry this morning, I was late. I was actually going to wear a T-shirt today that I was hoping was going to bring back a memory for you. We still have our original white T-shirts with a tea bag on it.
I remember those, you mother.
We were some of the first guys that started the whole team.
Yeah. That's how I got to meet you, mother. I show up in Edmonton and see all these fucking T-shirts. I'm like, who the are these assholes? There it is.
And then bringing tea bags and hucking them at you, which got out of control. We apologize for that.
It actually transformed me. You know what I mean? Like, I was just trying to figure out who I was and stuff like that, and you guys, I guess, and more, who just start and coming with all these gimmicks and throwing tea bags at me and T-shirts, and down here in Calgary they got signs and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, maybe I don't really need to find myself. Well, I'm already here, right?
Well, I think one of the interesting things, the only reason we actually did that is because even though you were one of the first guys on the card, there was just something there where, like, this guy is more than just generic wrestler weekend guy number 2. Like, we saw you as like, wow, this guy is going to be doing something. And so, like, well, I'm so glad to say, wow, you really lived up to it.
When you actually take the initiative to go get trained professionally, especially by someone like Lance Storm. I remember, even when I was a teenager watching pay-per-views, I was never like a fan. I was never a Lance Storm fan. Mm-hmm. But when you see him walking down to the ring, I even remember looking at my cousin and saying, this is going to be good. match because he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
So when he opened the school, that's when I went to him. And I knew if anyone was going to train me to be entertaining or embrace myself, it would be him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it carries over to the matches like you're talking about. You guys say that I'm not generic indie wrestler number 2. Well, it's because of the training. You know what I mean?
So before you take off, I need to know, can you throw out there what is your greatest PWA memory? Anything. It doesn't even have to be about wrestling, but something joined with PWA that makes you stand out in these 5 years that went,
start to finish, man. Start to finish. I've met some of the best friends I've ever met in my life here, you know what I mean? A lot of them are already gone on to full-time jobs and bigger and better things. I mean, you look at Matthias Wild, who's at the head of the game down in Florida right now.
Mike Dalton.
And Apocalypse, Rick Victor, who is very, very respected even in a high place like that. I mean, got to work some of the best names here. I mean, the locker room in the back, all the boys, everybody's so supportive, even though all the hate and the feuds and all the bullshit, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even on an independent show, everybody always shows class, everybody always shows professionalism, and that's what we're here to do. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to get injured, nobody wants to have a bad show, have a bad match, but we're all here to learn. I think right from start to finish, I can't pick one moment that is exactly my favorite. Just the whole experience. Kurt's a rockin'. Has created a great product. Took him a long time, a lot of money. He's went into debt. He's done it all. He's back out. Whatever. You know, he worked hard to bring Lance Storm. Even though he's my trainer, is just to have him as a booker. Mm-hmm. You still keep on learning. Like this place. I know everybody says, there's a big difference between indies and professionalism, but I mean, this is the breeding ground of professionalism right here in PWA.
You know, I got to say one thing. If I could think back, I mean, there's tons of memories of matches you've done. I can think of so many things like that. But if one thing that I could say that described what I'm going to remember, well, there's 2 things. One's personal and one's the other. Personal, it's always some head popping up going Tommy James. But the one thing that really sticks in my head the most of what I remember about T-Bone Jack Sloan is watching, at the time, the PWA champion, being the first guy in here setting the ring and being the last guy showing guys how to take it apart, and just the amount of respect that the guys gave you and the amount of direction and help you gave guys. How could you not look at you and say that there's a champion and a classy wrestler?
That's it. And you take pride in your job. Take pride in your job.
Well, you know what? We wish you the best of luck. We're gonna, like I said, we're always gonna keep our name out there. We hope you send us some stuff to tell us where you're gonna appear. And last thing, is there anything you'd like to say? I know the fans really have embraced T-Bone the last couple months. Is there anything you want to throw out to the fans as a goodbye to them now?
Well, anybody that's actually listening, I know I've done a lot of things, beat up a lot of people you like, but it was all for your own entertainment. It's all to pull on your heartstrings. And to be able to embrace that the last few months before I had to leave, it really means a lot to me that every one of you come out and pay your hard-earned money to watch us do what we love to do. And that's entertain you to the best ability we can. So thank you.
Well, thank you. So folks, that was Tom Hann. You know him as T-Bone Jack Sloan.
Join us next time for CNWA Pro Wrestling from the Second Row podcast with T. James Logan. And watch for CNWA Pro Wrestling action coming to a town near you. The CNWA Pro Wrestling from the Second Row podcast is hosted by T. James Logan. Produced and edited by Thomas Little. Assistant producer and audio engineer is Karen Little. CNWA from the Second Row podcast is produced in conjunction with CNWA Pro Wrestling and is copyrighted and may not be used in whole or in part